mind look like? I would answer, in the trees fish play, in the deep sea birds are flying. What does this mean? If you don't understand it, look into your own mind and ask yourself, who is it, this master who sees and hears? Quote, make the most of time. It waits for no one. To a dying man, your mind essence is not subject to birth or death. It is neither being nor nothingness, neither emptiness nor form and color. Nor is it something that feels pain or joy. However much you try to know with your rational mind that which is now sick, you cannot. Yet if you think of nothing, wish for nothing, want to understand nothing, cling to nothing, and only ask yourself, what is the true substance of the mind and of this one who is now suffering, ending your days like clouds fading in the sky, you will eventually be freed from your painful bondage to endless change. To the layman Hippo, you are meeting him face to face, but who is he? Anything you say will be wrong. And if you hold your tongue, you will be equally wrong. Who is he, then? On top of a flagpole a cow gives birth to a calf. If you come to self-realization at this point, you need do nothing further. If you cannot, look inward to behold your Buddha nature. Everyone is perfectly endowed with this Buddha nature. Its substance is the same in ordinary human beings as in Buddhas, with not the slightest difference in degree. But because human beings can't bring themselves to believe this, they bind themselves to delusion with the rope of unreality by saying, the realization of my self-nature is beyond me. It is better that I recite sutras, bow down before Buddhas, and enter the way gradually through the grace of all Buddhas. Most of those who hear this accept it as true. It is as though one blind man were leading many blind men in the wrong direction. These people do not really believe sutras and Buddhas. On the contrary, they set no store by them. Opening square bracket. For if they truly accepted them, they would know that merely reciting the sutras is no more than looking at them from the outside, and speaking of Buddha, but another way of speaking of the essence of mind. A sutra says, mind, Buddha, and sentient beings, these are not to be discriminated from one another. Accordingly, one who does not believe in the reality of one's own mind but professes to believe in Buddha is like one who puts trust in a symbol while spurning the real thing. How then can such a person realize this mind? One who wants only to recite sutras is like a hungry beggar who refuses an offering of food, believing that hunger can be allayed by merely looking at a menu. Each sutra is but a catalogue of the mind nature. One of the sutras says, the teachings of the sutras are like a finger pointing to the moon. Can the Buddha have intended that you acknowledge the finger and not perceive the moon? All beings contain within themselves the substance of the sutras. If you catch even a glimpse of your self-nature, it is the same as reading and understanding all the sutras simultaneously, none excepted, without so much as holding one in your hand and reading a word. Isn't this real sutra reading? Look. That green bamboo grove over yonder is precisely your own mind, and this mass of yellow flowers is nothing less than the supreme wisdom of the universe. As for the practice of bowing down before Buddhas, this is merely a way of horizontalizing the master ego in order to realize the Buddha nature. To attain Buddhahood one must come to self-realization through one's own efforts no matter what one's talents or capabilities may be. Unfortunately, most who understand this and practice Zazen begin to dawdle along the way and thus never come to complete realization. Then there are those who take the state of no thoughts and no awareness, where all reflection and discrimination stop for a time, to be true realization. Others think it sufficient Zen practice to remember every single koan. Still others insist that the true way of the Zen devotee is not to violate the precepts, or else to dwell in forests to escape from the problem of good and evil in the world. While still others maintain that the right way is to avow that there is no truth to be realized. or that there is no other truth to grasp than that of drinking tea when tea is offered or eating when food is served, or of shouting, katsu, when asked about Buddhism, or of leaving suddenly with a flourish of the kimono sleeve, pretending to repudiate everything, while calling anyone who practices zazen seriously and seeks out accomplished Zen masters a bore. If such individuals can be called truth seekers, then a child of 3 can be said to understand Zen. Again, there are those who think that when one's mental functions have ceased, leaving one like a decayed tree or cold stone, one has attained no mindness. While still others maintain that in the practice of Zen a decisive point has been reached when one feels a deep void with awareness of neither inner nor outer. The entire body having become shining, transparent, and clear like a blue sky on a bright day. This last appears when the true nature begins to manifest itself, but it cannot be called genuine self-realization. Zen masters of old would call it the deep pit of pseudo-emancipation. Those who reach this stage, believing they have no more problems in the study and practice of Buddhism, behave haughtily through lack of wisdom, engage eagerly in debates on religion, taking delight in cornering their opponents but becoming angry when cornered themselves, appear perpetually discontented while no longer believing in the law of causation, go about telling jokes in a loud, jabbering voice, deliberately disturb and ridicule those who study and strive earnestly, calling them clods whose practice is not Zen. This is as though a lunatic were to laugh at a sane person. The conceit of these idiots knows no bounds and they fall into hell as quick as an arrow. The first patriarch, Bodhidharma, said, "One who thinks only that everything is void but is ignorant of the law of causation falls into everlasting, pitch-black hell." These would-be teachers sometimes sound like Zen masters, but they are unable to free themselves of the delusive feelings and perceptions. Most beginners mistake the barest manifestation of truth for self-realization. An ancient Zen master, Rinzai, said, "The body of the true nature, and the ground of the true nature, these, I know for certain, are shadows. That is, concepts. You must find the subject that casts the shadows. It is the very source of all Buddhas." Quote, certain people say, "In the practice and study of Zen we acquire various ideas about it, and such notions, we are told, are a kind of mind illness. For this reason self-realization through Zen is difficult. But what if we don't realize our self-nature, or understand the truth through reading the Sutras? Need we fear retribution if we don't sin? What if we never attain Buddhahood? As long as we don't tread the 3 evil paths, why need we strive for Buddhahood?" Quote, answer. The source of all sin is delusion. Without self-realization it can't be destroyed. In the bodies of human beings are 6 sense roots, in each of which lurks a seducer. These 6 seducers each carry 3 kinds of poison: greed, anger, and folly. There are no human beings free from these 3 poisons. They are the causes of which the 3 evil paths are the effects. Necessarily the effects flow from the causes. One who says, "I am free of sin," is ignorant of this law. Even one who commits no sin in this life has these 3 poisons a priori. What, then, of those who add new transgressions? Question. If all human beings are heir to these 3 poisons, is it correct to say that even Buddhas, Dharma ancestors, and holy sages cannot avoid treading the 3 evil paths? Answer. When one realizes one's self-nature, the 3 poisons are transmuted in such a way that greedy actions turn into observance of the precepts, anger into mind stability, and folly into wisdom. Buddhas, Dharma ancestors, and holy sages are all enlightened, so how could they possibly sin? That is, act with greed, anger, or folly? Question. granting that through enlightenment the three poisons are transmuted in such a way that greedy actions turn into observance of the precepts, anger into mind stability, and folly into wisdom. How can one rid the mind of the malady of delusion? Answer. Realization of the self-nature is the sole cure for all mind illness. Do not rely on any other remedy. Have I not already quoted to you? Find the subject which casts the shadows. It is the very source of all Buddhas. Your Buddha nature is like the dual sword of the Vihara king. Whoever touches it is killed. Or is it like a massive, raging fire? Everything within reach loses its life. Once you realize your true nature, all evil bent of mind arising from karma extending over innumerable years past is instantly annihilated, like snow put into a roaring furnace. No thought of Buddha or truth remains. How, then, can any mind illness persist? Why can't the karmically begotten delusions and the manifold discriminative thoughts and notions of the unenlightened mind be quelled? Simply because true self-realization has not taken place. You can no more stop yourself from being driven within the 6 realms of ceaseless change without first realizing your self-nature than you can stop water from boiling without quenching the fire beneath it. Fortunately, you believe there is a truth specially transmitted outside the scriptures and scholastic teachings. Then why bother about the meaning of these scriptures? Renounce forthwith all such reflections and see the Master directly. What is the Master who at this very moment is seeing and hearing? If you reply, as most do, that it is mind or nature or Buddha or one's face before birth or one's original home or koan or being or nothingness or emptiness or form and color or the known or the unknown or truth or delusion, or say something or remain silent, or regard it as enlightenment or ignorance, you fall into error at once. What is more, if you are so foolhardy as to doubt the reality of this Master, you bind yourself though you use no rope. However much you try to know it through logical reasoning or to name or call it, you are doomed to failure. And even though all of you becomes one mass of questioning as you turn inward and intently search the very core of your being, you will find nothing that can be termed mind or essence. Yet should someone call your name, something from within will hear and respond. Find out this instant who it is. If you push forward with your last ounce of strength at the very point where the path of your thinking has been blocked, and then, completely stymied, leap with hands high in the air into the tremendous abyss of fire confronting you, into the ever-burning flame of your own primordial nature. All ego consciousness, all delusive feelings and thoughts and perceptions will perish with your ego root and the true source of your self-nature will appear. You will feel resurrected, all sickness having completely vanished, and will experience genuine peace and joy. You will be entirely free. For the first time you will realize that walking on water is like walking on ground and walking on ground like walking on water. That all day long there is speaking, yet no word is ever spoken. That throughout the day there is walking, yet no step is ever taken. That while the clouds are rising over the southern mountains their rain is falling over the northern range. That when the lecture gong is struck in China the lecture begins in Korea. That sitting alone in a 10-foot square room you meet all the Buddhas of the 10 quarters. That without seeing a word you read the more than 7,000 volumes of the Sutras. That though you acquire all the merits and virtues of good actions, yet in fact there are none. Do you want to know what the mind is? The layman Ho asked Basso. What is it that transcends all things in the universe? Basso answered. I will tell you after you have swallowed all the water of the West River in one gulp. Upon hearing this, Ho became deeply enlightened. Now, how do you swallow all the water of the West River in one gulp? If you grasp the spirit of this, You will be able to go through 10,000 koans at one time and perceive that walking on water is like walking on ground and walking on ground like walking on water. If you imagine I am describing something supernatural, you will one day have to swallow a red-hot iron ball before Yama Raja. But if it is not supernatural, what is it? Face up to this. To a monk in Shobo Hermitage. In my boyhood this question perplexed me. Aside from this physical body, what replies, I am so-and-so, when asked, who are you? This perplexity having once arisen, it became deeper year by year, resulting in my desire to become a monk. Then I made this solemn vow. Now that I have determined to be a monk, I cannot search for truth for my own sake. Even after winning the supreme truth I will defer Buddhahood until I have saved every sentient being. Furthermore, until this perplexity has been dissolved I will not study Buddhism or learn the rituals and practices of a monk. So long as I live in the human world I will stay nowhere except with great Zen masters, and in the mountains. After I entered a monastery my perplexity increased. At the same time a strong resolve arose from the bottom of my heart and I thought, Shakyamuni Buddha has passed already and Miraku, the future Buddha, has not yet appeared. During this period when authentic Buddhism has declined to the point where it is about to expire, may my desire for self-realization be strong enough to save all sentient beings in this Buddha-less world. Even should I suffer the pangs of everlasting hell as a result of this sin of attachment to saving. So long as I can shoulder the sufferings of sentient beings, I will never become discouraged or forsake this eternal vow. Furthermore, in practicing Zen I will not idle away my time thinking of life and death or waste even a minute in trifling good works. Nor will I blind others to the truth by trying to minister to them so long as my own spiritual strength is insufficient to lead them to self-realization. These resolutions became part and parcel of my thinking, bothering me to some extent in my zazen. But I could not do otherwise. I constantly prayed to Buddhas for strength to carry out these resolutions, which I made the standard of my conduct in both favorable and unfavorable